And we are live. What's going on, YouTube Live? It is your boy, Billy Rowe. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. Today is Tuesday. Ooh, it's been a while since I said that. Today is Tuesday. Again, I'd like to welcome you to the first row. If it is Tuesday, ooh, man, it's hitting me right now. But if it is Tuesday, you should already know what that is. It is time for a first row intersation. Now, normally I do a first row intersation panel on the last Tuesday of the month. However, this month, it's the last Tuesday of the month. You guys haven't seen me for 3 Tuesdays. I've been spending time with my sons. But it's the last Tuesday of the month. This time is going to be the last intersation until we figure out what the technology workaround is going to be for the decommissioning of Google Hangouts on air. So I decided, with it being the last Tuesday that we're going to have an intersation for a while on the first row, what better way to do an intersation or to go out on intersations than with the fan favorite, you know, Cousin Mo himself. Cousin Mo, can you say hello to the people?
Hello to the people. What's up, my people?
To the people. We got Brother Gatewood present. I see. So yeah, I see you in the chat already, live and accounted for. But let's jump into tonight's topic. I got a lot of things that I want to say about the intersations coming to an end, but I'm gonna hold that till the end. Let's jump into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is going to be become a beacon. And I really want to share what that topic means to me. But before we even do that, let me share one final time what an intersation is, just in case somebody finds this video in a time capsule somewhere and they're like, what is this word intersation? Because they're not going to find it in the dictionary. Intersation is very simple. It is simply when you take conversation and interview and you mix the two together, you get what I call intersation. In my life, I'm very privileged, very honored to have multiple sets, multiple types, multiple backgrounds of friends, family, loved ones, and anything in between. And in our conversations that we have, those conversations typically go beyond the surface level into much more deep and meaningful conversation on why do you think that way? Where do you think that originated from? What does that mean to you? How does that resonate with you? And so on and so forth. And so what we were finding in these conversations is we were getting an abundance of growth. And if you know anything about me, you know I'm really about growth, about moving from one stage to the next stage and always seeking more, never being complacent or stagnant. And so one of my really good friends, JC, she made mention that, like, wouldn't it be cool if some of our conversations were just recorded? So some of the growth and the experience that we get from these conversations could be shared with other people. And that kind of sparked the growth for Intersations. So here we are. We started on September 25th, 2018. We are now to July, almost ready to be in August, July 30th, 2019. And Intersation has been a very informative for me. It's been a very inspirational and very just a very important part of my life, really, every single week. So I hope you guys are really ready to jump in tonight. For those who are watching live, you're in for a treat. Please make sure this is a total engagement moment. This is going to be like, I expect you guys dropping gems. I expect you asking questions. And if you have to, give an amen. Do what you got to do tonight. But be involved, be engaged. You're going to see, visually, you're going to see, I almost said Bruce because I looked at Bruce's name. You're going to see Cousin Moses and I. But please realize that this is a group conversation. Please present whatever you want to give to the conversation and add what you want to add. This conversation can go in any direction tonight. So without further ado, tonight's topic, become a beacon. Cousin Mo, you know what? Before we even go into the topic, Cousin Mo, one more time for the people. Can you introduce yourself so they know who you are?
Hello to the people, Cousin Mo, affectionately called that by my Cousin Ro. We've been calling each other that since about the 3rd grade where we first met. And before I go into our story, always have to salute to you, brother, for bringing this platform and bringing this type of information that will live in perpetuity on YouTube. As long as you're there and giving out your business card or doing those grand theaters and you're like, hey, and you can follow me on YouTube if you like what you heard today. You always have this information available for those folks who like information and need that empowerment. So salute to you. Salute to those who have been with us on this journey. It's almost about a year, but those who have tuned into these intersations, got some information, found it valuable, hopefully applied a little bit to their life. Definitely, if they shared the video, 2 thumbs up to you. If you like the video, I'll give you 1.5, but maybe you'll get around to watching it on that second time. So, Brother Moses, I am a husband, a father, a veteran, and a Morehouse man. I do believe in Black Jesus. I'm a bit of a humorist because that's what gets me through my day. And so, definitely proud to be here. Love the topic, love the conversations, love the interstations, and I'm just ready to get to it.
All right. Well, as always with every interstation, nothing changed but the title. We're gonna call it nothing changed but the title. My very first question for you is, when it comes to the topic of becoming or become a beacon, what does that topic mean to you?
That's that self-challenge. It means that when I hear it, I interpret it as, if somebody was to tell me to become a beacon, that they may see some potential in me, that they may see, some leadership skills, maybe something in me that they're noticing is shining. But it's not just the fact that they wanted to acknowledge it, but that they were giving me the challenge. They weren't just saying, hey, I see great things in you. They were saying to become a beacon. So therefore, not only do I see it, but other folks need to see it as well. That beacon is something that can be attractive of others, but it does stand out. It stands out particularly in the dark. And it is that radiant or that illuminating energy that can draw others near, give them direction, point them in the way that they may also choose to go.
Man, you're already hitting nerves right now. Hey, that particularly, it stands out in the dark. I literally was just having that conversation with somebody today when they seen this title come up, like how more profound light becomes in the dark. Like you don't realize it until it's dark. Like the sun being up, a fire doesn't seem like it's a whole lot, but when the moon is out or the moon is not out and it's just a dark night, you're like, man, we got to get next to that fire because that's the only thing that we can see with. So that's profound. We're gonna touch base on that a little bit more as we go on this conversation. But for me, a lot of what you're saying resonates with me as far as somebody seeing greatness in you, and acknowledging it and wanting you to put it out, put it out there for others to see. But for me, this particular topic, it really encompasses what this journey has been on First Row about intersations, about setting more than one beacon, honestly, having people sharing their stories and sharing their perspectives and their experiences, their triumphs, their failures, all those things. And to me are those beacons that many of us, whether it's because of shame or because of blame or just because of genuine shyness, we don't share. So for me, that beacon really embodies what First Row is about sharing, sharing the power of your experience with others, and seeing that beacon as not always a sign of, when I think of beacon, I think of lighthouse. So not always just a sign that, hey, there's land ahead, but sometimes that beacon can be, hey, caution, watch out. Other times it can be, hey, there's hope. You're not just stuck in a sea. There's some land for you. There's some solid land for you to put your feet on. So that's what this topic means to me, when I think about this. So let's jump in. That's the easiest question you get in Cousin Mo. Let's jump into this conversation tonight. For my next question, I want to ask you, with today's focus on social media, like how much social media we consume and really media in general that we consume, do you think it is actually harder for us to become a beacon today than it would have been maybe in the past when we didn't have all these technological distractions?
Yeah, so old beacons probably used to be lit with some kerosene oil and some fire, and so it required some maintenance, I would say.
Right.
Today we have the technology to plug it in, Duracell, connected to some natural gas or something to where it may be a little bit less maintenance, but it will be necessary to have maintenance in order to continue that brilliancy, that brightness of that beacon. To be a beacon, though, I think social media probably makes it a little bit easier because of the technology that's involved. I also would think that there's a lot with technology that would allow, or social media that would allow that beacon to be obscured, or to where it's no longer the type of beacon that people want to see anymore. Just have so much access to the information. They can find you third grade pictures that your mom ends up posting and be like, oh my gosh, she was short or something. For whatever reason, you're not tall enough. You weren't always so, charismatic. There were times where, something that they see that you had on that, people can get finicky sometimes about the type of beacons they like to see, and the way they like their beacons to shine. They might like the iridescent yellow. They might not like the red flashing in between. They may be on a plane right now, and so now they're looking down at their beacons, or they might be on a boat and they needed their beacon from far away. But now that they got a little bit closer to it, it's not the beacon I intended. It's not,
Right.
it's not exactly as Now, it does get easier to be that beacon, but can you sustain it without high levels of maintenance? And will you always be the right beacon for everyone at all times? Probably not. Metaphorically speaking.
So I like what you're talking about as far as the sustainability of the beacon ship. I'm making up words on the fly tonight. Beacon ship. But being able to sustain the stance of being a beacon. I guess I would ask, what's the balance? What's the line between being a beacon and really trying to build resonance with people, and being a person who is just simply seeking an attention? Like, what is that line?
Yeah, so the actual purpose of being that beacon, I like what Brother Gatewood put in there, that lighthouse. A lighthouse is a form of a beacon, as well as any radar, any homing signals. When the planes are landing, they have to look down and they see the green lights from the tower. The watchtower was a form of beacon. Smoke signals. There's so many different ways that you're really there for a purpose. And I think the differentiator right there is that purpose. Right. And so attention seeking, all of that, there's a difference between being, a hero or being somebody that people look up to and things of that nature. But when you are a beacon, you have a real purpose. Smoke signal has a purpose. Landing of those planes, watchtower signal, the guy with the ropes, when you're, well, not the ropes, but the yellow baton or the orange baton. Yeah, the flag things. There's so many different beacons and examples of beacons where you have to just find that one common ground. And I think the commonality on the positive end is its purpose, a specific purpose for that beacon. That's what keeps it from becoming, the other side, which we can talk about.
Yeah, no, I think that is the word that I would sum it up with, is purpose. Maybe I would add intention, purpose and intention.
Oh, yes.
Because they're pretty closely related. But purpose, what is your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish? And then what is your intention? What are you seeking to gain? And if you're seeking to gain, sharing your experiences, giving what you can give to people as far as intellectual information or financially, whatever it may be, then great. But if it's like, okay, what can I get from? Then I feel like being that lighthouse, being that watchtower. I think the air traffic control is a great analogy. Being that air traffic control, you're like, well, I'm looking to get whatever it may be. So you didn't give it to me, so I'm about to guide you over to this little raggedy gate, and you're gonna get all your passengers off of the raggedy docking station. So I like that. The purpose does, I think, the purpose does establish the line. And when your purpose is malicious, or your purpose is more self-serving, I think that's where maybe you cross the line into seeking attention rather than helping somebody or being a true beacon, lighthouse, or watchtower. Really quick, I want to bring into the conversation cousin Brian. What's going on with you? He says it makes it easier and emits more light if it is authentic. Ooh, authenticity. Social media can give way to low light filter through BS. In a way, it appears to be a beacon. Yes. No. Ooh, cousin. What do you think about that, cousin?
He is spot on. You can't shine like the North Star unless you are that North Star. That light, everyone on the globe knows that is one of the most iconic symbols of the direction, a guide, a map, a tour. I need to know which way I'm headed. And
Right.
if there's any time in your life when you need to know which direction you're headed, you do need a beacon like that North Star. But if you're not clear, if you're not clear to your purpose, if you're not clear, your intentions are obscured, then the type of beacon that you can be will only produce that low level frequency. You can only guide when the sun comes out, you can't be seen no more. There's nothing about you that's going to resonate once you're shining amongst the light.
Right.
Man, hey, we can go deep on that one, Brian. Don't do it. Don't you do it, Brian.
Stop. Hey, hold on. I don't know why I'm tripping, but I don't have my notebook, Fabi. I got you. You got to say that one more time because that was classic. You hear me? I don't care. Y'all gonna have to hear me opening up everything.
Let them catch it in the playback. That was
right.
That was nice.
I want y'all to know I'm really about that note life. You have. That's interesting, man. To be just that right there. You have to be. If your purpose is true and you're not low frequency light, you got to be able to shine in the light and in the dark.
Oh yes,
that is.
You only look good when it's nighttime.
Right.
What you look like amongst those who are also living their purpose and intentional, and those lights, like when they say your name and there's that like. Have you ever, you probably have one, I'd say it like this. There's probably somebody, that just the mention of their name gives you some positive energy, that type of beacon. You can smile at just a joke, or like they said, that happy place in your head. Now that's that beacon that you need. Like sometimes when you're going through a darker phase, we go through it. Sometimes there's some uncertainties, there's some cloud things. We start living for our jobs. We start, being, taking care of the bills rather than really living in the moments of those to whom we're responsible for, so now we get with them and we were not really in the space or in the moment to enjoy the fullness of, wow, I am a dad, right? Look at my kids. I mean, there's some things that can get in the way. I got to stutter a little bit, but,
right.
But let somebody remind you of that Christmas when they opened up that Christmas gift and it was that best reaction, that unpaid for, the one that didn't make it to the camera footage. So,
right.
What's up, nephew? All right.
I thought I heard a little kid say hi.
Yeah, that's my Emery.
So let's move forward to the next question. The next question that I have for you is really about your experience with beacons. For the question is a who and what question. So who or what have been key beacons along your journey? I mean, if we're saying purpose and intention, whose purpose and intentions for your life have been really key and pivotal to your journey and who you are and who you have become today and who you'll become in the future?
You might have to do that like almost like a top 5 because there's so many. Like we got to do that like best hip hop songs or something. There's so many beacons, man. Like I can go from I'll say it like this. So, definitely at home. Let's start at home. Father was there, mother was there, my grandmother who gave us space, the family members that were inside of that same 2-bedroom, but all of us was in there. So brothers, cousins, aunties, and uncles, broaden that out to some of the teachers in the 2nd grade, all the way through my 12th grade. I could name the whole gambit, but in between there were the friends that we met along the way, the cousin Rose, the Matt Haneys, the Tims, the Lightnings, being able to have that open space just to be a gamer, to be a kid, when that was not really the expectation in the neighborhoods we come from, which also reminds me there were beacons that were shining at a lower frequency that I still learned a lot from. Still in those streets, you got the neighbors, the homeboys, the Miss Loopies, the folks who kicked us out when we were just trying to have a nice party. We knew we should have been in class. That's why we was trying to have the nice party, because we needed somewhere else to go for a second. There's so many different beacons that we can do just in that close proximity. Living and dead, the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, those who have lived and made that ultimate sacrifice for something like civil rights and human rights, for us to be able to experience the degree of freedom that we have today because of their sacrifice, them being set aside on a hill just to be a light, to be an example, like that lighthouse gate was referring to. They gave me that strength that I needed in the form of history, in form of information, in the form of looking at their life through the text that we can see in the videos and being able to say, wow, now that's the caliber of a man. The Christians who actually had some influence, as well as the Muslims. So there's spiritual beacons that I can also draw energy from, positive energy, as well as some of the negative. I'm not in the church as much as I used to be, but because there was a bit about it when it came to character worship, personality worship, and things that didn't resonate as well with me, that I also had to learn from on this journey. I mean, professional beacons, those who stand above the mark, like the Mark Zuckerbergs, as well as the Steve Jobs, those who are self-serving, the people who make Toms, things that happen in professional worlds, like mentors, who I can probably run the gamut of names. So there's so many. I also would go into the other areas like the cultural, but we'd be there all day, the entertainers, celebrities, performing artists, rappers, and such, as well as the Michael Jordans and the Mike Tysons, and then the overall symbols, the Obama, the Oprah Winfrey's, who are doing global thing. Now that's just in America. I could probably go on all day and moved it over into Africa and some of the other places, but you get the point. There's so many of them. Where would we even begin to say who and how? The overall how is they showed me that I am on a journey. So even when there are those dark patches in the journey, don't lose sight of your beacon or your purpose or your intention or the reason why you're here and what is the potentiality of me, of Moses Jenkins. And so that's the beacon within my internal one that I get, that I draw from those external beacons.
So really quick, so how you said that's how you draw from those external beacons. So what has that in a nutshell defined? And when I say defined, I don't mean in the sense of confined. I just mean defined you to be who you are today. How have those beacons of possibility, of inspiration, of, care, of character, of maybe some of the wrong, low, like you said, low frequency beacons, how has all that combined together to really solidify the definition of who Moses is, who Cousin Moses is today?
Yeah, that's the whole trick of it all, is that sometimes you feel inspired and you know exactly where that inspiration is coming from. Other times it's just so much of a hogposh, a jigsaw puzzle. Sometimes there's brighter beacons, like you'll hear almost the preacher come out of me. So that might be those spiritual beacons who had shared that light and that testimony, the way they spoke, their cadence, when they went a little bit higher, when they were hooping a little bit, when they started injecting some energy. And you can hear that without me even being conscious of exactly which beacon is shining the brightest, but because they are all within. And I think it's even biological, touching the DNA or the triggers, the light synapses in my own mind, those things, those memories.
Ooh,
that are
go
still
into the brain light. Don't go into the brain light.
Don't you do it, Brian. Those stars, like if my mind is a galaxy, and those bright lights are the memories, and if you look close enough, those bright lights are actually attached to real moments that I've seen through the lenses of my eyes and I've heard through my ears, and they're stored in some type of being unable to define how I can capture those, and it still has that impact in my life today. Now that would be profound. If I'm gonna do it, I have to write a book about it, but I think I can do it.
Hey, do it, because I'm gonna read it if you do it.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let's move to the next question that I have for you. So, and for those who are watching live in the chat, feel free to jump in if you have any questions or any things that you want to add to the conversation. I'm happy to bring those in. For the next question that I have for you, Cousin Mo, have you encountered? Well, I'm going to ask you to define what you think a false beacon would be. And you kind of touched on it earlier, but I want you to redefine what you think a false beacon, how you perceive a false beacon, and have you encountered any of them? And then a couple of things on how you were able to identify it, how you moved through that interaction with that beacon and kind of got out of that, we're going to call the song of the siren, so you didn't wreck your ship.
Yeah, so false beacons are still hard. There's the temptation. There are the natural attractions in the way that we justify natural attractions. I start to identify them through experience with the real beacons. those things that actually have a long lasting impression on you.
Mhm.
Some of those temptations and things that are distractions or deflections, they might just be the reflection of a beacon or something like that. So you might just be looking at an illusion, something that you've conceived within your own mind to be a beacon, just because you thought that that was the way it should be. I'll give a couple of examples though, but you identify them with experience and time. A couple of examples that chase the bag mentality.
Right.
To me, that's a false beacon. That is something that's almost been indoctrinated in us. The power of capitalism and its allure, and being your own boss, entrepreneur, setting your own price, being in control, being relative to the materialistic rather than the spiritual. So that false beacon, the more money that you see these folks making, and oftentimes you'll also see them with the most levels of dissatisfaction.
Mm.
Like it gets to the point of almost being greed. But then remind them of something that really matters to them, like that were they there to deliver their son or daughter, and then see
Right.
how long they can talk about that versus those. Ask a rich person about finances. They don't care. Ask them about their story. They can talk forever. Ask them about their children. They can talk forever. Ask them about, well, how do you save? It's just another boring, redundant conversation. Life wasn't really about those beacons. They'll even tell you some of the ones that I've seen, like the Robert Greenleafs and such. They'll give you that servant-based leadership model. And a part of it, they'll give you the stories where when they wanted to become most successful or most fulfilled is when they realized that they should be doing for as many people as possible, not just the self-serving ideas. So I think that it's just a reflection of what you actually wanted was attainment. And what you actually wanted to attain was actually found in your ability to connect and grow relationships with people. And somewhere along the line, we've replaced that identification of attainment, and we created this false beacon in our own minds and through our education of just capitalism. So for me, just to quickly recap, my false beacons, and I can only speak from my personal journey, have been those things that are related to the temptations and things that I just preconceive. I identify them with experience. There's some things that I'm still not as familiar with, but for the ones that really stood out to me, my example is this pursuit of capitalism rather than human capital, or our connection to money and materialism rather than our still undying spirituality. And that that namaste, how my light recognizing your light means so much more than my ability to exploit our conversations for transactional or selfish gain.
Man, hey, so you said a lot there, but there's some things that I gotta recap. I like that you recapped it, but there's some other things that I gotta recap. That natural attraction, there's things that inherently we are attracted to. Just like with people, there's vices or even just substances, and I don't mean like narcotics. I just mean substance. What could be just like the smile of a person, the eyes of a person, the way a person carries himself, a conversation that a person has with you, the green on a Cadillac. Like it could be anything. That natural attraction that pulls us. So I think that's really good. You bring that up when it comes to dealing with false beacons. Kind of being aware of those natural attractions that you have in order to make sure that you're not simply moving to beacons because you are enticed internally to do so. The other thing was the compare and contrast that you brought into the aspect, comparing, the beacons that that are 100% pure light. I don't want to say pure light because we ain't all pure light. I'm not even pure light, but 100% authentic, 100% in the right energy space, in the right frequency space, and comparing that to what you're experiencing as you come across new beacons. Because just like in the don't get me to quote in the historical reference, but just like in history, where you would see a beacon would be lit, like they light this big bonfire on the tip of a mountain, and that would be the signal fire to the next person to light their fire, and the signal fire to the next person to light their fire. So it's like I'm comparing what I'm seeing in this first beacon against the next beacon against the next beacon. So it kind of builds a chain of stability across all your beacons as you're kind of going through your journey. And then the other thing is it took me a while to remember the words, but was the reticular activating system. And that's that story bouncing against what our internal story is. And so the reticular activating system, just to kind of, for those who may not know what it does is it helps us filter information that we're getting. So for instance, I can own a Chevy. I own a Chevy vehicle. Because I own a Chevy vehicle, my reticular activated system, when I'm out and I'm driving, it's easier for me to see, oh, you're driving a Chevy, you're driving a Chevy, you're driving a Chevy. And at some point it filters out that you're driving a Toyota, and you're driving a Isuzu, and you're driving a Geo Metro, and you're driving all these other different cars that are not Chevys. At some point it tunes those out. And when I say it bounces against your story, it bounces against what you have going on internally. So internally, I'm driving a Chevy, so I much more easily see Chevys. We've seen this happen when they did the I don't know if you remember this, Cousin Mo, the faces on Mars, when they were showing those rocks that look like faces on Mars. They were saying how they could be faces on Mars, or you could just want to see a face. It's like seeing the man in the moon. It's like seeing the man in the moon. Some people can see the man in the moon. Some people can't. I can see the man in the moon, but it's because I want to see that face. Other people are like, maybe I want to see the face. And then they look and they're like, I don't see the face. And then lastly, they also said, Cousin Mo, I don't know if you remember when they showed the picture of the rat on the moon, not on the moon. I think it was the rat on Mars as well. And it was a rock that had a very similar feature to a rodent. And it was like, oh snap, there's life on Mars. Unfortunately, when you look at all the pictures from all the angles, the rock never moves. And so if there is a rat on Mars, the rat died a long time ago and it's not moving. So I like that you bring that aspect, really bouncing that internal story against the beacon. And sometimes we paint it out to be something that in somewhere in our either subconscious or in the deep depths of our soul, we know it not to be, but we just want for it to so badly to be the beacon that we see based on the story that we have playing internally. So, Brother Bruce, I'm working on it, man. He said, man, y'all got this covered. I just enjoy listening. This can't be the end. I'm working on it. I'm trying. We're going to figure something out, but it may just take some time. So with that, Cousin Mo, let's go on to the next question. So for our first intersation that you and I had, the very first intersation we had was called Being Transformational. How do we, in our journey, when we're looking at beacons from, let's say we'll use a ship. A ship is on the water looking at a lighthouse. However, a ship has its own lights and is in a sense could be a beacon to the ship that can't see the lighthouse yet. How do we transform ourselves from being this incognito, low frequency light into a more profound light that can be seen in the daytime?
All right, so nothing metaphorical. I'm gonna give you all tangibles right here. I'm gonna give 3 key tangibles on transforming yourself. And I'm gonna give you just a couple of seconds here to get your pen ready.
I already got mine in my hand.
So 3 tangibles. Number 1, you're going to have to open up your internal systems. Open them up. Open your internal systems. Number 2, you're going to have to connect with your external systems. There's some beacons. You got some good in you, and that natural attraction to see what you need to see. Once you know that you're empowered, you'll start to see those Chevys, those people who are just as empowered as you are. And so if you can start to connect with those externals, you'll start to open up even your light. You'll see that brilliancy shine as well.
What's the third one, Cousin Mo?
Oh, I got to give him some time to write, cousin.
Oh, I'm like, I'm done. They better watch the
replay. All right, so you got open in yours, and then you have to connect with your external. Open your internal, connect with your external. And then which last one? I could probably say, so you got your internals, you got your externals. I think the technology piece that we highlighted in the very beginning, so even more tangible than the more spirituals. How do I open my internals? How do I really connect? So the real tangibles is probably in this third one. So are there some social media channels that you're underusing right now? Are there some networks inside some real professional networks Congressional Black Caucus, the profession. If you're in sales, are there some sales networks? If you're in analytics, if you were, I know when I graduated from both college, I was what do they call it? Like those fraternity, like if you do so high, they give you like magna cum laude, but they have like beta gamma sigma.
Right.
Any of those type of where you already are, but you're just not acting out or not participating. There's folks who still do go to church. Are you a deacon? Are you involved? Are you participating? Are you spreading that throughout the neighborhood? Do you have ideas and suggestions? Are you part of the revival committee and things? Are you great at marketing? Your barber shop, if you still go to a barber shop.
I don't know.
High schools, volunteering, mentoring. All of these are the different tangible ways to once you start really engaging with yourself and with your commitment as to be a beacon, you'll start finding outlets where you'll, because that attraction again, you'll be drawing more and more and more folks who are of like mind as well as those who needed to see the light. So transformation does happen, but it is an intentional and a purposeful thing. It's not about the attention that you're seeking, but about connecting and allowing yourself to be what it is that your internals are telling you that you need to be, the greatest, or, just comfortable. But whatever that is, once you've connected on the inside, once you've opened up your internal systems, connected with your externals, those that are around you, and then really start participating and engaging, you'll find that to be true. All right.
So I guess the follow-up question to that would be, is after this transformation, how do we know that our signal is strong enough? Let's say we put ourselves, especially in that third tool, we put ourselves in the right outlet. How do we know that our beacon is strong enough? And then I have a follow-up question to that. This is a setup, just so you know.
Yeah, so because that's another one of those ones. What kind of beacon do you want to be? That's part of opening up your own internal, seeing what kind of beacon you are. Like the lighthouse on the hill is our example. So now we know that we're talking about the different boats that are out to sea. And there's sometimes some storms. But the level of a beacon, are you one that's on the beachhead or are you one that's on the mountaintops? Right. So that positioning that he's bringing up, there's a lot that can even be unpacked there. Are you at the level of the clouds above, or are you just high enough for those boats that are on the horizon? And then the brilliancy of the light that's shining. There are some times where you're going to doubt that they can see, but that's not your position to be doubting how many folks can see or if they're even paying attention. Your position is to continue to be brilliant, to shine. And once you know that you're shy. Am I admitting light? Is my mic on here? Your mic is on here. You're fine. Continue to shine. There's things that we would like to do as the maintenance that we brought up in the very beginning, the maintenance. And so right now you may just have the kerosene and the fire, the wood and fire, or the old coal. Maybe you've upgraded some areas of your life in the areas that you're actually shining in, your leadership, your professional leadership. You're a beacon for your children. And so your fatherhood as a beacon, or even in your spiritual circles, maybe it's as a friend or as a professional, maybe it's in the space of public speaker. And using leveraging technology as that form of a beacon to be not just an example for those who are in the audience receiving information, but also for those who also want to be public speakers. Right. And so as you continue to build out I'm a public speaker, I have the YouTube videos that house it. Is my next step a website? Is my next step, using my LinkedIn to actually connect with other public speakers and find those public speaking forums? Maybe it's to connect with the corporate America on their Toastmasters and the joint. So there's other areas that you'll start to fine tune when you're connecting to others and then leveraging your external systems. Connecting to your external systems and then leveraging the different platforms. But first, that beacon itself. Are you on the mountain where the clouds can sometimes be your major obscurity? So now you know it's time to shine brighter. In order to compete against those clouds, which may block your purpose, the ships being able to see you, you're going to have to plug into a new power source. Maybe that's where we're at. So I don't know. Starts internal though.
No, I like that. And that definitely clears up the internal systems of, like you said, being that beacon on the mountain or being the beacon on the beachhead. One is to say, hey, watch out, there's land here. But if you come all the way to this mountaintop, please believe you go through some land before you get here. So
yes. I can only show you how to get here, but I can't tell you when to stop. Drop anchor. You're getting close.
No, but I like the word of brilliance, because of, when brilliance is a level of intelligence. It's not just a level of light. But when you go back all to the depth of that mind and the light synopsis that takes place in just our own electronic field, that brilliance is almost like saying the measure of the light that's firing off in our brain. So I like that you say our job is to have the brilliance. Our job is not to pull every ship to us. It's not to land every plane on our tarmac. But our job is to shine. Our job is to shine our light as powerfully as we can. And for those who are in the range of being able to see that light, and it's for them, then hopefully they're able to see it and make the moves that they need to move along their journey. So I love the way you answer that, Cousin Mo. For my next question that I have for you, so going into the maintenance aspect, using the maintenance analogy. So the lighthouse, the shore is battered. The lighthouse is on the shore. The shore is battered. There may come a point where we may need to decommission our light. How do you measure? How do you measure when that time comes? And what are some effective ways to decommission our lighthouse?
Yeah, so that's interesting. And here's the analogy that I had for this one. And so bear with me. I'm still metaphoric. I don't know why I'm in such a metaphoric mind. I'm normally analytical and numbers and such. So hopefully these metaphors mean something to someone, though. It means something. So I'll say you said the lighthouse on the shore. How do you know when it's time to decommission? I'll say it like this: as a beacon, rather. So the lighthouse is the example, but as the beacon part of that lighthouse, you know that the beacon, or what illuminates that light, is affixed to something, right?
Right.
There's different types of beacons that we can go into, like a homing beacon on your phone, or there's mobile beacons, because sometimes you have to be mobile if you're going to attract those who are in motion with you, right? It's not necessary to always just be a fixed or one kind of beacon. But if you do know your brilliance, all the tools and the essential resources that made you shine and made you relevant when you were on that beachhead or when you were on those shores is still going to be necessary and relevant. Maybe a couple of tweaks and some maintenance, but now it may be time to move up the mountain because the boats got taller, the waves got bigger. Maybe it was global warming. We don't know what might have changed. But when it's time to decommission, there is a purpose, but the skills and the tools and the things that are already in you are already enough. I got to say that one more time for one more person. The thing that allowed you to be illuminant on the shore might need some maintenance, some little tweaks and changes. You might not be able to get away with just being a kerosene burning beacon once it's your time to be decommissioned from that port, from that beach. And when it's your time to be on that hill or a mobile beacon or that North Star from someone, maybe some minor adjustments, maybe some minor tweaks, but the things that are already in you are more than enough to have you shining. How do you accept it is the question.
Right.
Sometimes we can get complacent, but I love my beach.
The view is amazing.
I was doing just fine right here. No. There is a bigger your purpose is to shine. And those folks who are looking and finding some utility there, there is still a purpose for you. And until that purpose is called, Black Jesus calls you on the best and most perfect beacon, Black Jesus. Salute. While we're yet here and we are that beacon, there is a purpose. So don't be too concerned about the decommissioning. There are some areas where we have been a beacon that sometimes we need to allow that low frequency light to just go on and dim on out. We have to at some point decommission ourselves for some of the different things where we've been shining, but not for the most positive reasons. So maybe it was the way that we treat men who are not our brother. And so if we have that spirit where it's so competitive against the next man that it's the one-upmanship, and it's turning into the, I'll throw them under the bus, or, I really don't like them. And that message is starting to resonate with either coworkers or with your children, or the way you treat other people in general. If it is from a negative lens, then maybe some of those different examples have to be, decommissioned a bit in our own lives. But for the most part, I think that there is a brilliance in us that shines in our positive areas that we can focus on, and that can be taken into other spaces where we need to shine.
I like the instead of decommissioning, really just being transitional with your light, with your brilliance, and the mobility. As you were walking through that, I literally was thinking about like just my beacon from like early childhood all the way to this intersation that we're on today. And it's like, being that kid who's like, hey, you want to play with us? You guys want to hang out? You want to, have a good time, whatever, all these different things, to fast forwarding to like coming into a place of reflection and trying to be in a deeper thinker, and creating the Facebook page, things many fathers forget to teach their children. And really all that was just me writing out thoughts and saying, hey, this is the thought of the day. This is what I'm thinking today, and really trying to inspire people from that lens. And then shifting over to a mastermind, and then shifting from a mastermind onto these videos, and just doing like a Wednesday word. And each one of these moments from as you were speaking, it's like, wow, well, that's me taking the kerosene oil and maybe putting in a 100-watt light bulb, and that's me taking the 100-watt light bulb and now maybe putting in an LED daylight light bulb, and that's me taking that and now taking it and making it a spotlight with multiple LEDs. And so that transitional nature, really each transition really leading to the next rendition of the light or of the brilliance. Maybe the answer is at some point when I get to the end of all this journey of trying to be the beacon that I need to be, the decommissioning is not me eliminating the light. It's really the legacies that I have left behind in the different stages of my light, and hoping that those people who are following those beacons to the shore or to the El Dorado, the city of gold, that they are going to bring even more powerful and meaningful lights than what I left behind. So I think maybe that to answer the question for myself, it comes down to the legacy that we're leaving. And I love the analogy of the transitional nature of the light, because it is for us old timers sometimes hard to just let things go and say, okay, I've done my part. I'm going to allow the next generation to take it from here. It's hard to do that, because especially for people like you and myself who are driven, self-motivated, not complacent, we're hungry. So we're pushing, trying to get to as far as we can get in this story called physical life. We're trying to get as far as we can go and get into it. But also in the back of our minds, we understand that this is not an eternal story. Like, it's not going to be forever. At some point it's going to come to an end, and whether you want to decommission your light or not, at some point portions of your light will be diminished. But then you do have people, like you said, like the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X's, that their light is still shining. However, what's supposed to happen is the people who are using that light as a beacon for their journey, they should also be shining brighter, because they have a beacon that's strong, pulling them in the right direction. So
let me give one quick example too.
Yeah, sure.
Physical fitness. So you would think that when you walk into like a 24-hour fitness, that the person who is the biggest with all the muscles is the beacon. Maybe they're the beacon for somebody who wants to get the biggest and have all the muscles, and that's what they needed. But for that person who's walking in, that could be intimidating. Like, this is my first time going to the gym in a while, and I don't need to see the super big buff guy. Right. I might need to see the person taking a ginger run and like, oh, okay, so not everybody needs to be, like they're on steroids, pumping 250 pounds. I'm not going over there with it, and I'm not there yet. And so for those people who aren't there yet, they need a different kind of beacon.
Right. More subtle, because other than that, you'd just be blind. It's like standing right in front of the lighthouse. Yeah. You're going to go blind. No, that's definitely, some people do need a different beacon. I like that. That's a good ad as well. So I got one more question that I want to ask you. Man, this hour is just flying by, as it always does, Cousin Mo.
Yes,
But
sir.
I got one more question I want to ask you. Before I ask that question, I want to just give those in the live chat an opportunity to, if there's a takeaway that you have from tonight's Intersation, please take a moment to put that number one takeaway for yourself. Or if there's a nugget that you want to give for tonight's Intersation, please take a moment to put that into the live chat so that I can read that on air while we're still live. But for you, Cousin Mo, as always, with every Intersation I begin with the same question and I end with the same question. If there were 2 or 3 points that you would want the audience to take away from tonight's Intersation, what would those be for you?
All right. So number one, thanks for listening. Got to the point of the key takeaways. The major takeaway that I have is the different types of beacons for the different spaces that you're in at different points in your life. They are many, from the family to your childhood upbringing to your peers. They're in your spiritual section or your spirituality, or their spiritual beacons rather. Professional beacons. There's cultural beacons, celebrities, icons, entertainers. There's historical beacons, and you can draw from their light at any point, and you don't even have to be conscious of it, but they are there and they are shining within you. That would be number one, is just know that there are all types of beacons. Don't limit yourself to just saying this positive person and being so limited and specific. Just know that there are other ways that people have shined, and their radiance is still glowing even on you and within you. And then that second one, I really like that question about the 3. So opening up your internal systems, connecting to your external systems. And then that third one is still going to be there if you can get those first 2. But that third one is, there are so many different tangible ways once you've opened up and you started to connect, to where you'll find that audience. You'll find those spaces. You'll reticular activation system. Well, those things that you're naturally attracted to, all of those, when it's time for your beacon to shine, you will be in a position to shine with great brilliance and with great intensity.
All right, I got it. Got it all. I got it all. Well, as always, Cousin Mo, it's a pleasure doing the show with you. We got to figure out how to get these back on the air. We'll talk offline about trying to figure that out, but we got to figure out how to get these back on. It'll just be gone. We'll just call this the season finale, and then we'll come back with another season of Intersations sometime soon. But anyway, thank you for everything that you've shared, not only just tonight. Thank you for everything that you've shared on every panel that you've been on, every Intersation that you've done. Just your wisdom. I appreciate you sharing your positivity, because I know, though I maybe present positive, I'm also have a cynical mind side, and I'm not always the optimist. So it's good to have somebody to balance me out and keep me on a positive mind track and keep my energy focused in the positive area. So I definitely appreciate you. Heartfelt love to you as a brother. I call you Cousin Mo, but I see you as a brother. If I walked up and you was fighting, then we fighting somebody. I don't know who we fighting, but I'll ask you after why we was fighting them. So, with that, I thank you guys who have been watching live. If you guys are watching via the replay, thank you guys for all this love and support you guys have given for Intersations for over almost the past year. Thank you for the insights that you guys have shared, for the participation, and for sharing the stories that have been shared on here. It's definitely been an honor to honestly work in a space where there's a level of appreciation that I think goes way more deeper than a lot of the connections that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So with that, though, as always, with every Intersation, I have a segment called Tools for the First Row. For those who are new to the first row, what the first row, or where the first row originated from, was a long time ago when I was very young. I had a business mentor, and he taught me something very important. He taught me that the people who sit on the first row, they sit there and 2 things happen. Number one, they make the most money, because there's a reason they make the most money. The reason they make the most money is because there's no distraction between them and the person presenting the information. So that is where, though my last name is Rowe, it's a play on my last name, but that is where first row came from. That concept of sitting on the first row and getting as much information as possible. And the privilege that I have had as the host of Intersations has been being able to sit on the first row directly with the person who is giving the information. So I'm getting an abundance of information, but you guys are also on the first row getting that same information in real time at the same time. And you're interpreting it maybe in different ways, but you still have the live chat to interact. So that is where the first row came from. As a result, I always like to do with the Intersations tools for the first row. And these are 3 tools for when I was creating this content that kind of helped me think about how I wanted the conversation to go, tools that I've used when it comes to becoming a beacon in my own life. And I really hope that these tools speak to you, because this is really where I see legacy when it comes to Intersations, regardless if we ever go on the air again with an Intersation or not. This is where I see legacy at, or in these tools of how not only I became a beacon, or how I become a beacon and transform into even a different beacon as the sun sets on Intersations for the day, but how your story is important and your experiences are important, and how you can be a better beacon in your life. So the very first tool that I came up with when it comes to becoming a beacon is dispel the myth of perfection. And I think Cousin Mo touched on that really, really well tonight about being transformational as a beacon. Man, we came full circle. Being transformational, though, as a beacon, and really meeting the need for the time and the space that you are in. If you need to be on that mountain, if you need to be on that shore, if you need to burn oil, if you need to be solar powered, shout out to my boy Bruce Gatewood, being transformational as that beacon and dispelling the myth that you have to be absolutely perfect before you flip on your light. Yeah, you're going to be imperfect the whole time. So flip on the light and work to build your brilliance as that light begins to shine. You might find you'll move a location. You might find that mobility. You might find that you had the wrong people that were homing in on you, and you can adjust and tweak your light to change its frequency to attract the right thing. It's like you can either have the right light to attract mosquitoes, or you can have the right light to send mosquitoes in the other direction. So that's the very first tool. The second tool is a lighthouse. I'm sorry, this is something that I also wanted to share. In dispelling the myth, every moment that we waste waiting on being perfect is a moment that somebody's ship or somebody's journey is running into an iceberg, or running into land, or their plane is hitting the ground. So that's also a very important aspect of dispelling the myth of perfection, because if you're waiting to turn on your light, there's some crashes that are taking place that could have been avoided had you had your light shining on. Even if you only shine in the dark right now, maybe that's where you're at, that's where your frequency is. Eventually you get to the place where you might shine in the light. So that was another thing I wanted to bring in. The second tool is a lighthouse. Be a lighthouse, not a light bulb. And so the reason I say be a lighthouse is really about the brilliance of a lighthouse. Again, you can stand in front of a lighthouse light if you want to. You might damage your retinas because the power of the light. It's okay that if you start off as a light bulb, I think as children we start off as light bulbs, but it's our responsibility to grow and manifest stronger and more powerful light. And if you think about just like I said, a 60-watt light. So I live in a place where I'm in a valley and I'm surrounded by mountains. Now, from where I am at in the valley, I can look at the mountain and see probably a 60 to 100-watt light bulb off in the distance, because they're all kind of combined together. So I can see light, but I can only see that in the dark. However, if I'm a lighthouse, or if I'm looking at a lighthouse that's on the hill, or a spotlight that's shooting up from the ground, it may be really powerful in the dark and I could see it profoundly in the dark. However, you can still see that in the daytime as it spins around and that glare comes, because there's something that happens when you reflect light in the lighthouse. If you reflect light in your lighthouse, sometimes you don't have to be responsible for all the light. We have this thing called the sun. So if I just get a mirror and I angle it right, I get to catch some of the light from the sun. Now there's light all around the mirror, But when I angle it correctly, I'm able to gain some of that glare from the sun and reflect that out and make my signal that much more powerful. So that's the second tool, is be a lighthouse, not a light bulb. It's okay to have a season of being a light bulb, but that is if you at, I don't want to say a certain age, if you at a capacity that is capable of greater light are still operating on a light bulb mentality, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also doing those who are relying and counting on that beacon a great disservice. So that's the second tool number two. And then the third tool and the final tool really resonates with what my passion is when it comes to first row. It's be more than a warning. And the reason I say that is because, again, that lighthouse has multiple purposes, and us being beacons, us being light, has multiple purposes. We can cook like with light. We can find things. If you have a flashlight, I actually had to do some stuff on a car this past weekend, and unfortunately it was dark, but fortunately I had a little flashlight that was able to help me see what I needed to do. But realize that our purpose as a beacon is more than just a warning. It's to inspire, to drive hope, to show purpose, to show possibility, to show examples. Like, just be more than just a warning. Be more than just a don't do that, don't do this, don't be more than just a don't person. Be, hey, do come over here and experience some of this good stuff as well. So that's what be more than a warning about. That tool is really important, because as you share your story, as you share your experiences with people, whether it's on Intersations in the future or it's in just your day-to-day life at work with people in general, as you share your story, everything about your story can't just be a beware of dog sign. It can't be beware of life sign. Some of it should be, hey, and there's some good stuff here too. Beware of happiness. Beware that if you come into this particular position and you fall in love with yourself and you have self-confidence and self-worth, that there's some happiness there, because you end up liking the person who you're stuck with for the rest of your life. And that's you. So really quick to go over the three tools again. The first tool is dispel the myth of perfection. Don't wait until you're perfect, because you'll never turn on your light. And by then you build it. And even if you do get perfect, your building will be destroyed and you won't have a place to plug your light up anyway. Number two is be a lighthouse and not a light bulb. It's okay to start as a light bulb, but the purpose of our light in this sense is to shine, and to take a word from Cousin Mo's notebook, to shine with brilliance. And if we're going to shine with brilliance, there's only so much brilliance that a light bulb can give you. And then the third and the final tool being, be more than a warning. Be something that is inspirational, not just a warning. Something that is inspirational, that inspires people to move towards your direction, rather than just a warning to slow down or to go in the opposite direction. So those are the tools. I hope you guys have enjoyed this week's season finale of Intersations. I'm gonna call it like I want it to be. Season finale of Intersations. Cousin Mo, I thank you again for being on tonight. If you could say good night to the people, and then I will sign us out of this bad boy.
Good night to the people.
All right. So for those who are watching live, thank you guys again for being on. For your dedication, your support. For those who are watching via the replay, thank you guys for taking a moment to watch this replay. I really look forward to the next time that we can see you on Intersations. However, the next time you will see us live on the first row will be tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That will be for the Wednesday word, and that topic is going to be on the hurt cycle. So if you want to know what that's about, you got to tune in live to get a copy or get a feel for what that topic is about. But until the next time that we see you on Intersations, we thank you guys for your support. We thank you for your love. We thank you for your encouragement. And more importantly, we thank you for your experiences being shared with us and the world. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Until the next time, if you like this video, share it. If you share it, like it, we're happy to engage with you in the comments. We're happy to engage with you in the chat. Until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless.